So we're using states in which the number of modes is linear and the input size, so n is linear in n, right? But the number of photons is small and independent of input size. It depends only on the error probability that we allow. So what does the protocol look like? For Alice and Bob, do the following, and there's some improvements made from the original protocol that we had. They get an input x, Alice and Bob, they apply an error correcting code, and this error correcting code must have the property of a constant minimum distance. What this means is that as long as x is different than y, then the corresponding code words would differ in at least a guaranteed fraction of the positions. In our experiment, 22%. Right? And what they do, they send a sequence of coherent states, and what the referee has to do is interfere in pairwise on a beam splitter and check for clicks in detector D1. And they do is they modulate the phase of this coherent state to be either plus or minus 1, depending on the ith bit of the code they used. So why does it help? We already established that the information of the participating is exponentially smaller than in the classical case. But why does this allow the referee to determine whether the inputs x and y are different or not? Well, let's look at the way the coherent states interfere. So if the phases are equal, what is going to happen is that there's going to be disruptive interference on the output of this detector. So in the ideal case, we never expect to see clicks. However, if the phases are different, then we get the opposite effect, in which they interfere constructively in this output, right? And they may or may not click, and the probability is given by the total statistics of the coherent state, but that's something that we can control by choosing this parameter alpha. So what ends up happening in our protocol is that there's going to be some probability distribution for the number of clicks that we observe when x is equal to y. And if you remember, when x is equal to y, all the phases are going to be equal, like happens here, right? So the only reason we'll ever see clicks in detector D1 is due to noise, like dark candles, so because of interference. So this gives us a background. Whereas if x is different than y, we know that 22% of these pulses are going to have different phases, so we expect to see more clicks. So we're going to get a different distribution, in which the mean number of clicks that we expect is going to be larger than in the case where x is equal to y. And in fact, we can control this mean number of clicks by choosing a larger mu. And what the referee does is simply sets a threshold value, for instance, some number like here. And if you see a larger number of clicks, you conclude they're different. And if you see a smaller, you conclude that they are equal to the inputs. And we can choose the error probability and distinguish the distributions to be any of them. Right? And so this is a protocol that is practical, as you'll see, transmits less information in the classical case, and actually does what it's supposed to do. Right? And so now I'm just going to let Fake tell you about how we demonstrate this in experiment.
Okay, so next I will discuss how we demonstrate the protocol in experiment. So the experiment was done by Toronto. Currently I work with Jeffrey Pira and Franco Wang at MIT. So I knew the protocol in early 2014 from a talk by Norbert Rotinghaus. I think Norbert is around. It was a very great talk. After the talk I thought, can we do the protocol in experiment? And then I thought the following challenges. First, the protocol have a very strict requirement for the devices, like the detector are 50 Hz dark current. And also it requires to have a stable interference for very big current states in the order of 10 to the power minus 5. We know this number is already very low than the normal QKD operations. Third, we need this interference for very large number of pulses. So with this challenge, we are asking, can we relax the requirement and demonstrate the protocol with commercial devices? So the answer is yes. Here's our solutions. First, we design a better error correction code to relax the requirement. To relax the requirement for the devices. And then we use a modified commercial pattern like QKD system to demonstrate the quantum fingerprinting protocol. So our error correction code, we use a random linear code. This code has quasi-linear encoding complexity, and in conventional coding theory, we know this kind of codes are easy to encode, but very hard to decode. But the good news for our protocol is decoding is not required in quantum fingerprinting. So random linear code is a perfect match for our protocol. So with this code, we have these three advantages. First, we can approach the JV bound, which is the fundamental limit between minimum distance and the rate. So for comparison, we have a 3-time improvement compared to previous code called Jasmine code. The prior two pages, we have a very small failure probability, the epsilon small failure probability. Most importantly, this can relax the devices for the protocol. For example, it can relax the data from 50 Hz to 5 kHz. So with this code, we can use the commercial device to do the demonstration. So next we talk about the experimental setup. We use the commercial pattern play system manufactured by ID Quantic. And the reason we choose this system because this IDQ system can provide a very good interference for weak pulses. So let's talk about the setup. The pulse is generated from the referee, and then the pulse passes through a much center interferometer, and the long arm is bobcat. The pulse will split into two parts, this orange one and this blue one. For these two parts, they pass through a 5-kilometer fiber. Finally, they will arrive at Alice. So for the orange pulse, it passes directly go to Alice, and then it reflects back from this Faraday mirror. Because this Faraday mirror, it will be shifted the correlation to the observed one, and then the pulse will pass through the long arm. Once the pulse passes through the long arm, Bob will use the code word EY to encode this orange pulse. For this blue pulse, it will directly go to Alice. Once it comes to Alice, Alice will use the code word EX to encode the blue pulse. In the end, both pulses reflect back and interfere at this bit splitter. We use two single photon detectors and time correlator to check the interference results. So basically, this interference will exactly as discussed in previous slides by one. Finally, I want to emphasize this red devices indicate our modifications on top of our original system. So why we do these modifications? First, the initial commercial system, like Clavis 2, has relatively low efficiency and higher dark count. Second, commercial system does not normally allow external phase modulations. Third, the low mean photon number is already outside of the normal QKD operation, which is in the order of 0.1 photon per pulse. So here I will talk about our modifications. First, we replace the detector with two external free-running detectors. It's due from ID Quantic, it's IDQ 220, and it has about 20% efficiency and 2 kHz dark count, which is exactly falls in our numerical simulation. And the second modification is we use two external function generators to perform the phase modulation according to the code words. Finally, we use a variable optical attenuator to highly attenuate the wavelength responses. This is our modifications, and to make the system work, we also need precise synchronization, calibration, and polyton control. So in the end, we can transmit about 100 megabits or 5 km very good visibility, about 99%. So next shows our real experimental setup. This is the box of Alice. This is the box of Bob. The box of Bob. This is the referee part. And with this system, we come to our experimental results. We define the quantum advantage as the ratio of classical transmitted information over quantum transmitted information. This is the plot. X is the input step. Y is the transmitted information. And this blue area shows no advantage of quantum fingerprinting protocol. So we found that for small input sets, indeed we didn't see any improvement of quantum protocol. And for large input sets, we clearly beat the classical protocol. So to give you an example, for message up to 100 megabits, which is this data point, the information transmitted is about 66% lower than the best known classical protocol. So then we come to the end of the talk. In summary, we propose a principal state protocol, and we design a new error fraction. We design a new decoding rule, and also perform the simulations to consider imperfections. And also we use a new error fraction code to relax the requirement for devices. And finally, we construct the system to do the demonstration. The key message is we perform the first proof of concept quantum fingerprinting protocol that transmits less information than the best known protocol. So thank you very much for your attention.
Now the session is open to questions, comments, please.
If I understood from the first part, one of the interests of this is that we get provable advantage of login quantum versus and classical. So this provable advantage is great in theory. In practice, here you're talking about 66 in your experiment, 66% better than the best known classical protocol. Why can't you do so? Why can't you put it at 60% better than anything classically possible? It's a very good question. In fact, we for this. Hello. Yeah, there exists a lower bound. There exists a lower.
So we do some calculation to see whether we can beat all the known protocol over the proven lower bound. We found the major limitation is the dark count of our detectors. So in future, if you have a detector with like a few hertz dark count, we found with the same setup, we can still beat the proven lower bound. So that's why it's mainly limited by the detectors in our system.
So is this best known classical protocol non-deterministic, or does it also include probabilistic protocols?
It's a probabilistic protocol. Yes. Just behind your question.
Oh, this is a matter of terminology. You shouldn't use hertz to measure the frequency of dark counts. The proper SI unit for irregular events is the becquerel, named after the discoverer of radioactivity.
Okay, I agree.
You know it.
Thanks. So when you were comparing the classical and the quantum protocol, now you're talking about the ratio of information instead of communication, which is the right thing to say. On the other hand, when we're trying to talk about information, then the idea is that Alice and Bob want to let the referee privately compute the things. They don't want to reveal a lot of information about their inputs. However, in your experiment, it's actually the referee who creates the pulses and stuff. So the referee can get much more information if you're really wanting to count information. If you're counting communication, then there is a different problem, and we know it. But with information, you need to be careful that it's Alice and Bob the ones who actually send the information to the referee, not the referee that can start the pulses and then get more information, right?
So in the setup, the referee, when sending the states, doesn't get any information about what we're doing. So they do it privately how they encode the phases of the states. That's one thing. The other one is that when we are talking about transmitted information, we are not talking about how much information about the inputs is being revealed. So essentially, and I tried to make this clear at the beginning of the talk, the figure of merit is really the dimension of the states that we're using, and then we know that the dimension of the states can bound any information we can transmit about anything whatsoever using those states. So it's not information about X and Y, and it's not them trying to hide something from the referee. That is actually something we're very interested in studying, and that terminology in the future. But when we talk about transmitted information, we're really talking about something that we can bound from the dimension of the states that we're using, which is the relevant figure of merit.
Any other short questions?
So I just have a question concerning the classical communication complexity. So you mentioned it's order n. So this assumes independent Alice and Bob, and also does it really assume no errors?
So the lower bound for the classical case is square root of n, first of all, and so it's a protocol that's still error. It's actually one-sided error. There's a protocol which is the best known that it's found in the literature, right? And we are making a comparison in which that protocol is realized perfectly as well, right? So there's an error in the sense that there's a probability of not correctly determining whether the inputs are equal or not, but not errors in the sense of imperfections in the deployment. Right? So we assume that we're comparing against the perfect implementation of a classical protocol.
Okay, so please make it short, please.
I was wondering if, so basically your input space was mu times log n, right? So correct. So let's say it's a weak, then you have a small input space. But if they're very strong, then of course it starts to grow. But then if the coherence states are too weak, I assume the probability of success takes a hit in some way, or is that not the case?
So what you want is to have mu to be independent of the number of pulses that you're sending. So in fact, how weak the coherent states are depends on the input size. because the number of pulses that you have depends on the input size itself. However, the error probability depends only on the total mean photon number. The only reason that you might run into trouble eventually is that if the probability of obtaining a click due to your signals is comparable or even lower than the probability of getting a dark click in the detector, then you're limited. That's why Finn was saying that that's actually one of the limits in trying to beat the lower bound in the classical case. It's that you need detectors with really low dark counts, so that you can go for very small total mean photon numbers and hence very, very weak coherent pulses. Right, in our experiment, they were already 10 to the minus 5 mean photon numbers per pulse.
Oh, so there are no downplex, then there's always a regime of coherent state strength that you can always beat the classical.
Yes, correct.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think it's time now, so let's have the two speakers again.
Okay, so thank you for being here. This work is done in collaboration with loads of institutions associated here. So the theory has been done between the University of Edinburgh, where I'm based, and some universities in Paris, Telecom Polytech, Diderot, and CNRS. And the experiment has been done at the quantum group at the University of Bristol in collaboration with some other universities, like the University of Bath and the University of KwaZulu-Natal. So this work is about how we can witness entanglement in a network that consists of some agents that are either trusted or untrusted. This can be done using verification protocols for distributed multi-pattern entanglement. Specifically, we're going to use a specific type of entanglement, basically GHZ states. Now, the experimental implementation, what we do is we create some photon pairs using microstructured photonic crystal fibers, and then these pairs are fused together to create 3-photon and 4-photon GHZ states. So the model is the following. What we consider is that we have a source that we do not trust. It's supposed to create and share amongst n parties a GHZ state G0n, which is basically the 0 plus 1 state. Now, we also consider that we have several parties with GHZ states, and we do not trust them, so we don't know how many of these parties are untrusted. We have an unbounded number of parties, and they can also collaborate between them and collaborate with the source in order to convince us that we're actually sharing a GHZ, but in fact we are not. We assume that the honest parties trust their measurements, so they have a trusted qubit, single qubit measurement device, and that they can also communicate between them in a secure way, so they share pairwise by the classical channels. They have classical communication between them that is secure. So the protocol goes as follows. The source shares a state rho with the n parties, so this state is shared, and one qubit is sent to each of these n parties. Now, one of the players, which we're going to call the verifier, let's call that is the first one, actually selects all the inputs for the rest of the parties. So he selects some ambiguous theta j from 0 to pi and sends them to each of the parties. There is a condition on the inputs that their sum needs to be a multiple of pi. So it needs to be either 0, pi, 2 pi, etc. So each of the inputs goes to the players in a secure way. And then each party, depending on this input, measures in a basis that's defined by the total vectors on the XY plane. So they use this input to measure in this basis on the XY plane. And then they send their outcomes yj to the verifier via the private channel. So each of the players measure and send the ones to the verifier. And then finally, the verifier gathers all the outputs yj and performs a test T, which basically consists of checking a condition on the inputs and the outputs. So what this test actually means is that when the verifier has chosen inputs that are an even multiple of pi, so basically 0, 2 pi, etc., then what it's expecting to find is that the parity of the outcomes is 0. Now, on the other hand, when the verifier has chosen inputs that are multiple of pi, so pi, 3 pi, etc., then he's expecting that the outcomes have parity 1. So the first property that we want to check is that our test actually works. So it works on the right state. So it should always succeed on when the state that is shared is the GZ. So we can see all the measurements as a little bit of rotation around the z-axis, followed by a measurement in the Hadamard. So we can think of them as like a total measurement that is a rotation around the XY plane, followed by measurements by all the players on the Hadamard basis. So from the condition of the inputs, we have two cases. As I said before, we have the first case is that the sum of the inputs is an even multiple of pi. And what this means is that when we look at the GZ set by an even 0 to pi, etc., then the GZ state is mapped to itself. So it goes back to the GZ. And when we measure the GZ in the Hadamard basis, what we get is a superposition of strings that have parity 0. So we see that the condition that the test basically passes for this specific case, because we get a 0, and then here we also 0 to pi. Now, in the second case, the sum of the inputs can be an odd multiple of pi, right? So it can be pi, 3 pi, etc. Now, when we rotate the GZ by pi, then the GZ is mapped to an orthogonal state, which is actually the 0 minus 1 state. And when this state is measured in the Hadamard basis, then it gives a superposition of strings that have parity 1. So again, the condition of the test holds, because here we got 1 and here we got pi. So what I saw here as the test actually holds for both cases. So when the correct state is shared by the source, the test always succeeds. Now, the thing is, what happens when the source actually shares a state that's not the GZ? So when the state that is shared is a state rho that has fidelity with pi, then we can actually show that we can calculate the probability of the test succeeding by a function of the fidelity. So this is actually half 1 plus the fidelity. And how we show it is by assuming that our test is by taking our test as equivalent to performing a POVM. This POVM Pn can be shown to be this one. So this actually means that our test always succeeds on the GZ. It never succeeds on the orthogonal state, which is the 0 minus 1 that I showed before, and it passes the probability half for the rest of the states that are in the space orthogonal to these two states. And then it's not very difficult to see that this probability can be seen as doing this P of M on our state, and it's actually upper bounded by this expression. So this is in a case where all the parties are doing what they're supposed to do. They're measuring the state with the correct measurements. Now, what is happening when some parties are not doing what they're supposed to do? So what if we allow some of the parties to do some operation on their space in order to bring that state as close as they can to the GZ? So we need here to consider, let's say, a maximized fidelity, which is going to be the phi prime, where we allow the dishonest parties to do an operation in their space and bring this state as close as they can to the GZ in order to maximize their probability of passing the test. Then again, we can upper bound this probability by a function of this maximized fidelity, which is a bit different than before. It's 1 over 4 times 3 plus this fidelity, maximized fidelity. So I'm just going to go through the proof, but it's basically the proof is actually based on doing this structural measurement on the state and try to distinguish between the two correct states that the honest pairs are expected to find. But I'm not going to go through the details of the proof just now, because I'm going to show you this sketch of implementation that has been done in the University of Bristol. So this is basically the only slide I'm going to show you about experiments. It's a sketch, and if you want some more details, you can check out these articles by Green et al. From 2012. So what is happening here is that we got the photon source. It sends some photons in a Sagnac source, and this creates some photon pairs with different wavelengths, either in a signal bus, and they get split up in the different mirror, and then they get fused in PBS and sent to different players. Then the players use their waveplates to measure in the required places. So what is very important in this experiment is that everything is automated. So these waveplates are actually measuring very quickly in different measurement bases, and it's also done in a single shot way. So every time one photon is measured, then this gets extracted automatically to switch and change and different measurement bases. So this is the way we created 4 photon GZ states. We're actually going to use a 3 photon GZ state as well, and what we do is a smart simplification of the setup. We basically don't use the second Sagnac source. There's no, the photons are only count one way, so basically there's only 3 photons that are created here in tiny photons, and this actually gives a slightly higher fidelity. So the tomography result of the creation of the GZ states is are these 4 figures for the 3-party GZ and for the 4-party GZ here. This is the real part and the imaginary part of the actual implementation. This is the theoretical GZ state that we're expecting to find, and here again is the real and imaginary of the 4-party and the theoretical ones. We see the fidelity 0.8 for the GZ3 and 0.71 for the GZ4. So the measurements that we did on our states are the following. We actually ran 2 types of protocols. The first one was what we call the XY protocol. This is a simplification of the protocol that I showed before, which I'm going to call the theta protocol. So the XY protocol is basically just doing the memory game, or the telepathy game. We, instead of choosing arbitrary angles around the XY plane, we just choose X and Y measurements. So this protocol has been also analyzed in the previous work by some of the methods and some authors. And what we did for both of these protocols is first we ran the honest case. So we just created the correct entangled states, and we measured the measurements we were supposed to. And then we tried to see what can happen in a case where there is no entanglement, no mathematical entangle. So what we did is we disentangled one of the players, we did the separable state, and then we tried to see how can those players maximize the probability of passing the test and convincing us that we share a multi-part entangled state when we don't, and we share a separable state. So we did this for GZ3 and for GZ4. And so this slide has all the measurement results that we got from our implementation. So the first 2 are for 3-party GZ, then the last 2 are for the 4-party GZ. So what we see here, this straight line here, is what we have for the honest case, so when everyone's doing the correct measurement results. What we have for both the X, so all the blue lines are the XY protocol, and the purple lines are the theta protocol. So here we see the straight line is the possibility for both protocols is around 0.83, 0.84. So this is when all players are sharing 3-party entangled states. Now in the case where we want to check separable states, so we want to check the dishonest case, what we did is we had one party measure in X. So he disentangled his qubit from the honest parties. And we see here in figure B what is happening with the pass probability. So when we range from the dishonest angle from 0 to pi, the pass probability, instead of being a straight line here, exactly because the dishonest party is unentangled, goes down to actually half for pi over 2. So what we need here in order to find the pass probability is we need to integrate this whole thing, and we get the value of 0.723 and 0.736 for the XY protocols here. This is, I only show you the theta protocol where the angle range from 0 to pi, but for the actual protocol we have to put basically X and Y, and it's just here and here. So we see that the pass probability for the dishonest case, for the unentangled separable state, is far less than